So at Clearway, which is a website where people try to find lawyers, we often have executives ask us if they've harassed someone, and let's say they've actually harassed someone at their company, and now they're being threatened that the person's going to go to the media and the person's going to file a harassment lawsuit. What should they actually do in the scenario whether they've actually done the act that they're being accused of?
Okay. Well, that's unfortunately somewhat common thing nowadays, unfortunately. There's always two sides to every story, but as an executive, the courts, so fundamentally, let's just start from where the courts start. The courts start from an employer it's not a balanced relationship between an employer and an employee. So they take, and that makes sense, right? Because the employer's paying you, they tell you when to show up, they tell you what to do, the employee kind of has to do their job. So an executive, by the nature of the position, is a person of authority in an employer. So first of all, it's not necessarily he said, she said, or she said, he said, or he said. The executive has a higher standard, has to adhere to that higher standard. And for the most part, the organization has to respond to that accusation.
Right.
What the best thing to do is, in the first instance, is hire a third party that's unbiased.
Okay.
And that could be another lawyer, that could be a workplace investigator, but it should be someone, because look, if you're an executive, let's say you're executive of Google or you're just a huge company, you can't hire a person that's 3 levels down from you to investigate something you did. Right? Of course, they're going to be in fear of their job, so they're not going to give you a real response. And in fact, the other person might be scared of speaking to someone that's under you. If you're an executive, you're like, well, of course you're going to tell them everything, and of course, so
they might be scared of talking to a lawyer as well.
Yes. Well, you as the executive, so I guess you say as an executive. The executive is an employee in that instance, but what I'm actually answering is the employer, right, that has had a complaint. And the executive themselves, first of all, they should take that situation very seriously. Whatever's being accused of, they should separate themselves from immediately, right, so it can't continue, or be accused of being can't continue. And then they should either go higher up and say, hey, look, this has been had. Things probably, to be safe in my mind, everything should start being recorded. So whether it's emails, keep those emails. If it's just because recorded takes away a third party or a judge or an arbitrator having to interpret what happened. What did you say to this person? What did you say to that person? Okay, well, here's the recording. Here's the email, right? So there's no interpretation issue. So I would suggest the first thing that happens. But really, you should have, in my opinion, you should get a third party with, like I said, either investigator. There's a lot of ex-police officers now are investigators. There's private investigators. They're all licensed. There's workplace investigators. That's a very common thing right now. There are lawyers, and lawyers are good to have that if they're not involved. It can't be that. It should be the employer's lawyer, right? And they shouldn't be the employee's lawyer. Like, they should be no bias. But if they're not involved, they understand the rules. They understand the law, which is so. What I think a lot of employers don't understand is how serious this can be. How the law is very, very focused on protecting the employee, whether it's a human rights law, employment standards law, just contractual law. So to answer your question, the first thing you do is get a third party to come in, give that person or party or organization effectively carte blanche to investigate. Don't direct them, don't tell them, if you've hired someone good to do this, they'll know what they're doing, and then they'll advise you. You should, like I said, if you're the head of an organization and someone below you's been accused, get that person out of there immediately.
Really, just fire them?
No, get them out of that space.
Oh, okay.
So don't fire them. Don't fire anybody.
Like, don't work from home?
Just don't have those two people working in the same office so they see each other the next day. Right? Because until you've figured it out. So what I often advise is, work from home is great. That was not always so common. It's very common now. Great solution. For a couple of days. The other thing is, maybe that person that's being accused goes home, gets paid, but just separate that situation. Don't let it to inflame. You don't want the person being accused to go and try and fix it. That's probably the worst thing that can happen. And the person that's accusing, this is very serious to them. And, the other thing is, the reason why a third party is because you might have a relationship, like a business relationship and a friendly relationship, or just like 10 years you work together with one of those two people, that's going to make you biased. You shouldn't be involved with it at all.
Right.